Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and this is Misha. You can't leave me alone today. What I want to talk about is what makes Pioneer unique from other formats, both with the card availability and also the play patterns and things like that. So Pioneer is from Return to Ravnica onward. Every card that is released in a standard set from Return to Ravnica on is legal in Pioneer with a banned list. Maybe the most important thing on that banned list are fetch lands. That was something that was decided really early on. The reason they wanted to ban fetch lands is they wanted to make mana a little bit harder, or at least have some sort of hit you have to take for playing a bunch of colors, because the direction Modern was going is like not that. The direction Modern is going is that, you know, that they don't really care about colors. They can kind of play as many as they want. And they didn't want Pioneer to be that. They wanted Pioneer to be a 2, and you can take a little bit of a hit and be a 3-color format, or take a giant hit and be 5, because triomes exist now. And as somebody who's been playing since original Innistrad-ish, to me, Pioneer feels like the power level of old Standard, of Delver of Secret Standard, of Thragtusk Huntmaster Jund, of like Junk Right Standard. It feels like sort of that power level. And if you're missing that power level of Standard, then like Pioneer is kind of where it is. It's not doing ridiculous stuff very often, like Modern or Legacy or whatever, but it's also like not boring and just like normal Magic like Standard is now. Which, don't get me wrong, I like Standard, but it's definitely low power level. The cool thing about Pioneer as well is that because the card pool is still pretty small, most super powerful Standard strategies end up being pretty okay in Pioneer. So it's an option to, like, if you play a bunch of Standard, being able to take your powerful tier 1 Standard deck and convert it, or at least have a lot of the same cards. We're seeing that right now. Like recently, like a month or two ago, a bunch of cards from Red-Black Midrange were banned. Frankly, the standard Red-Black Midrange deck from when before those cards were banned was only like a 5 to 10 card difference than the Pioneer deck. And that has happened a few times with Standard and Pioneer. And that's really fun. That never really happened, at least in my experience, with Modern and Standard, before Pioneer was sort of jammed in the middle. The neat thing about Pioneer 2 is that it's sort of a slower format in most cases. Now, there are combo decks, but they're totally interruptible combo decks. And really, they're combo decks that on average don't really combo until turn 4 or turn 5. And if you're not doing something about that combo by then you probably deserve to die to the combo deck. You need to play more sideboard cards or more cards that are good against it. But most other decks are pretty slow. So it just kind of allows you to play more Magic and maneuver with your opponent rather than just nut out on each other. Maybe the most appealing thing to Pioneer for me is that there's an insane amount of archetypes that you could win the tournament with. And I don't think that all the archetypes have been given enough credit. For example, going into the regional championships that started a month ago, the best decks and the decks everybody was expecting was Red-Black Midrange and Mono Green. But the two decks that were the winningest were Blue-White Spirits and Red-Black Sack, which, if you asked anybody, would be mid to low tier 2, kind of looking at the metagame. In addition, a lot of really cool decks popped up and kind of brewy decks popped up. There's a great Colossification Storm Herald deck that like combo kills in like one turn after milling the enchantments, bringing back the stuff and killing their opponent. That did very well at the regional championship. Blue-White Lotus Field Control did well at the regional champion, the Strict Proctor deck. So even the decks people are playing, it's very often, it's because they're popular because they have influencers that are kind of championing the deck, like Misplaced Ginger with Red-Black Midrange and whatnot. So you can play a lot of different decks and innovate in Pioneer and be successful. But there is downsides. One of the biggest flaws with Pioneer that a lot of people talk about, myself included, is that unfortunately, a lot of matchups, in fact, most matchups are play draw dependent. I know when I was testing for the RC, my win percentage on the play was like 75 to 80%, and my win percentage on the draw was like 35 to 40%. That's a huge difference. That's a massive difference. And a lot of other people that I've talked to are experiencing the same thing. In addition to that, there's some pretty violent matchup issues where it often feels like you're not only needing to win the die roll, but also get paired up against the correct decks. You know, there's a lot of good and bad matchups in the format, which is true among any formats, but it's like especially in Pioneer. Some important core cards of the format that you might want to know about going into it First one is Thoughtseize. Most decks are playing one of these cards, but Thoughtseize is one of them. If you're playing black, people are playing Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is an incredible card allowing you to disrupt what your opponent is doing, which gives the combo decks a need to be redundant, and also hyper punishes mulligans, and again, rewards going first, because you get to disrupt your opponent's hand before they get to play anything out of it. Now, the next sort of core cards in the format are mana dorks, right? Things like Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves. Being able to mana ramp allows you to kind of recover from being on the draw. But also, when you're on the play and you have a mana dork, it's like your opponent went third. You know, it allows you to exacerbate that play draw, or at least catch up if you're on the draw, and then like extend the lead when you're on the play. And then the last kind of core card or whatever in Pioneer are Shocklands and Pathways. So these are the dual lands that nearly every deck is going to play. Shocklands being lands that you pay 2 life when enters the battlefield and you can tap for one of 2 colors, or Pathways where when you play them, they always enter untapped, but you play on one side or the other. Each side is a different color. And these are just very powerful cards, allowing you to play 2 or 3 colors reasonably easily. Not as easily as if you had fetch lands, though. But that is a basic overview of Pioneer. I thought it was kind of important to talk about what makes Pioneer unique from other formats. You know, moving forward with, this channel, I plan on doing that with other videos as well in other formats for people that are just interested. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Check me out on Twitch as well. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.